Ксенечка, я люблю тебя.
Hear my plea to the fallen, leave me to be with the broken one last time before I go. Hold the last burning ember, let us never surrender. May we rise up to the glory and the fall. For the weak and the broken, for the lost and forsaken, let us never surrender. May we rise up to the call. For the weak and the broken, for the lost and forsaken, let us never surrender. For the glory of the fall. For the beat and the broken, for the lost and forsaken, let us never surrender. Now we rise unto the call.
All right, Orc Hunters, check on into the stream. Happy Saturday evening here, September 17th, 2022. I'm Andrew Mercado from Mercado Media, your host of this update within the war in Ukraine. Go ahead and comment where y'all are tuned in from. It is Member Saturday over on the YouTube channel. So the chat, I mean, everybody you can watch. It's not like it's hidden behind a member thing, but the chat on YouTube is set to members only. So become a member so you can chat. And then again, that's just Saturdays only. Tomorrow it'll be back to normal. Monday through Friday it'll be back to normal. The chat will be open to everybody. So thank you again. Comment members, how we're doing. Facebook, check on in. We got Deep River, Michigan. Hello from Maryland. Hello, Carson, Washington. Everybody check in. We got a couple big updates from today within Ukraine, including a counteroffensive that is ongoing in the Donetsk Oblast, just south of Lyman. And also tonight, just before I went live about 3 hours ago, there's been video that has come out of firefights in Kherson City in the southern axis, and we're going to watch that. So if you guys could, for me, please hit the like button, hit the follow button on Facebook, subscribe to the YouTube channel so you don't miss any updates, and make sure you have notifications turned on. So let's just hop right into it here. The revelations of mass graves of civilians and torture chambers in newly liberated Izyum confirms previous assessments that the Bucha atrocities were not isolated war crimes, but rather a microcosm of Russia's atrocities throughout Russian-occupied areas. So this is just more of the same. We saw the mass graves, just the war crimes that Russia had committed in Bucha and Irpin near the city of Kiev in the Kiev Oblast. And after the Ukrainian military had just completely obliterated the Russians from the Kiev Oblast, and then they retreated to the east, we saw the mass graves that were left behind, and the Russians tried to frame it as it was like a one-time thing, or it was like and they didn't even really own up to all of it. But the Russians that did said it was an isolated incident. It wasn't going to be a common occurrence from the Russian military. But the main Ministry of Defense from Russia, the Kremlin, haven't admitted to any war crimes at all. They don't even admit to killing civilians. The Ukrainian General Staff published images on the 16th showing a mass burial site in Izyum in the Kharkiv Oblast, and noting that Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said that the site contained more than 400 bodies, showing signs of torture and brutality. One second. That just started playing. My bad. That's the Firefights in Kherson. I was like, what the hell is that noise? Technical difficulty. My video just started playing and I didn't want it to. I apologize for that, chat. That's the Firefights we're going to be watching in Izyum. I got the video up and I just decided to start playing, I guess. My apologies to that. So back to the war crimes in Izyum. The Ukrainian Ministry of Reintegration reported that the number of war crimes victims in Izyum may exceed those of Bucha. The head of Ukraine's national police, Ihor Komalenko, stated that Ukrainian officials have found 10 Russian torture chambers in Vovchansk, Kupiansk, Balaliklia, and Izyum. One torture chamber was reportedly located in the Balaliklia police department, where, quote, Russians wore masks and tortured civilians with bare electric wires, according to Andriy Nebletov, which is the head of the National Police Main Directorate in the Kyiv region. So that the head of the National Police, Andriy Nebletov, confirmed these reports of the Russians wearing masks and torturing civilians with electric wires. And we also heard an interview, if you watched the last stream that I did, where we watched a lot of interviews with civilians in Izyum, and they had to hold a wire together and it electrocuted them while they held it, or they had to touch the wires, and lots of just atrocities that were being committed, and the civilians in the interviews were talking about that. The study award non-resident fellow Natalia Bukhanuyeva had warned in April of 2022 that, quote, Bucha is an observable microcosm of a deliberate Russian terror campaign against Ukrainians. Similar intentional atrocities are happening throughout Russian-occupied areas in Ukraine. Ukrainian officials will likely continue to find evidence of Russian war crimes and atrocities as Ukrainian forces liberate occupied areas. Let's pull that up real quick before we get into a map breakdown. And this is going to be viewer discretion as advised. I haven't seen any there's bodies and bags here, just trying to give you guys an idea of what you're going to be watching. Bodies and body bags. You're going to see the graves in Izyum. This is a BBC report, so it's not as graphic as the videos coming out of Bucha yet. Doesn't mean that those videos don't exist, but I'm trying to keep it so the stream doesn't get taken down, because these are atrocities being committed, but it's still important to show y'all that it's happening, because the Russians are going to flat out deny it completely, like they have been. They denied every single war. They don't even admit to any war crimes, and then those that are spewing their ideology are just completely glossing over this and ignoring it completely. They have access to the information like we do, but they're just going to gloss over it completely. So before we get into the full map breakdown, let me pull this up. This is BBC report of the mass graves in Izyum that are coming to light now. So let's take a look at this. Again, full credit to the BBC for this report. Sorry about that. Thank you. Just noticed there's no sound. Thank you all. Shout out to the chat. I'll get that fixed. All right, let's start it over. My bad.
In territory recently retaken by Ukrainian forces in the northeast of the country. Officials say that they found more than 400 graves containing civilians and around 20 soldiers who are said to have had their hands bound. They were discovered in the city of Izyum, which Russian forces captured in April. Ukraine says the bodies will be exhumed and sent for forensic examination.
So they don't really have it labeled big on the map. I want to show y'all really quick because we do have our own maps here. Again, credit to the Study of War for their interactive maps. Let me hide this. I'm going to show y'all where Izyum is. It's in this blue space here on the map. And again, blue space used to be red space. So this is territories that Russia used to occupy. And through Ukraine's counteroffensives and counterattacks, they've been able to take back a lot of the territory that Russia has taken since the invasion, including the city of Izyum. Okay, I'm going to circle Izyum on the map so it's just clear as day where it is, because on BBC's map, there's just a lot going on. So here's now the Ukrainian-controlled city of Izyum right here, okay? Right in this little pocket. It's one of the largest cities in this region that have been liberated by Ukrainian forces. So let's get back to the BBC report.
Is among the areas back in Ukrainian hands after significant territorial gains in recent days, although heavy fighting is continuing in the areas shown in circles here. Our correspondent Ola Girin has sent this report from Izyum, and it contains some distressing images.
Under the pine trees of Izyum, a war crimes investigation. This burial site has more than 400 graves, now being exhumed, the earth starting to give up its secrets. But the prosecutor here already claiming that one way or another, Russia killed virtually all of the dead.
Wow.
According to our data, almost everyone died because of Russian soldiers, says Alexander Filchakov. Some were killed, some were tortured, some were hit in Russian air and artillery strikes. He says the very first grave they opened contained the body of a civilian with a rope around his neck. Almost all the dead here are said to be civilians, women and children among them. But a senior official told us there was one mass grave with more than 20 soldiers. Some had their hands bound and bore signs of torture. For those at the scene, it was hard to take. This is a distressing sight, but Ukraine is determined that the world should see it. Graves are being opened here one by one. It's only now, after the Russians have been pushed out, that the authorities can really investigate and can establish how many victims they left behind. They were buried here in makeshift graves, many marked only with a number. Among them, a 65-year-old called Ludmila, who was killed in March in heavy Russian shelling.
You wonder that we're in 2022, the Nazis did this in World War II. You wonder how the Nazis did it? Well, the Russians did it too here.
Her husband Grigory tells me then he had to bury her in the yard. She was brought here in August. Now her remains will be disturbed again. She was beloved, he says. We had no children. God didn't give us that gift, but we were in love. As the graves were exhumed, security forces were still eliminating threats with controlled detonations of Russian mines. Maxim came to the burial site to tell his story and show the marks on his wrists and ankles where he was shackled. He says he was held by the Russians for a week earlier this month and tortured with electric shocks. They connected wires, he tells me.
Another civilian reporting on the wires. This isn't the only one. This is about the third one we've heard and seen now talking about this form of torture that the Russians are using.
You start shaking and trying to set yourself free. I fell from my chair. It was very painful. I asked my cellmates how long I was gone. They said 40 minutes. I think after 15 or 20 minutes, you pass out.
Wow, dude.
As the day wore on, workers from the emergency services were drained by their labours. But they expect to be digging at more sites like this in other areas recently taken back from the Russians. Orla Guerin, BBC News, Izyum.
So a sobering BBC report from the mass graves in now Izyum. And as we go around this map, as we continue with the Ukrainian counteroffensives, as exciting, you know, as those are, it's great to see Ukraine get their land back. You're going to have these are going to continue. So that's just in Izyum, right? We're getting mass graves coming out of Balikla, just to the northwest of Izyum, just like we saw here in Bucha and Irpin in Kyiv, when the Russians had control of a lot of the Kyiv Oblast. They didn't have complete control, but they had control over a decent amount. And the Russians had mass graves here in this region of the Kyiv Oblast, which is the capital. And we're going to see that again when the Ukrainians move further towards the Lugansk Oblast, as they just recently captured all of the city of Kupiansk here. They're advancing further. They're advancing across this river. As we see more and more territory liberated, we're going to see more of that. You're going to see more mass graves and more evidence of the atrocities that these both Russian military and Russian proxy volunteer units that they're sending into Ukraine, literal war criminals, so that way they can scapegoat, throw them under the bus and say, hey, well, those weren't our actually soldiers. Those were criminals from the Gulag that were committing those crimes in Ukraine. Likely why they're started to, the Prigozhin, who is the hot dog boy, Putin's hot dog chef, started recently recruiting more for the Wagner mercenaries in gulags and prisons in Russia, and that's who's being sent over into Ukraine. So that's just going to set up for, hey, listen, this whole special military operation, it was all of our criminals that were over in Ukraine. It wasn't our soldiers, but the Rozgavyrda troops are in Ukraine, and they've been there since 2014. The Russian soldiers have been in Ukraine since 2014. Anything saying that it was just the LPR and the DNR is just complete garbage. There's so much video evidence and proof that the Russians have been in Ukraine and have been fighting in the back and kind of helping out the LNR and the DPR since 2014, since this front line began. All right, so sobering report on the mass graves. It just puts me in a sour mood every time, and it's not the last. That's unfortunately not going to be the last report of mass graves from the Russians that we're going to see. Russian President Vladimir Putin appeared to threaten increased attacks on Ukrainian civilian infrastructure if reported Ukrainian attacks on Russian military positions in Russian Federation territory continue. Putin said that Russia has been rather restrained in our response to Ukrainian terrorist acts and attempts to damage our civilian infrastructure. So this is with the explosions in Belgorod, and then also there was explosions in Tangarog. So here's the two cities that Russia's now starting to respond to. You got Belgorod and Tangarog, and there's been explosions in both of those cities, whether it's from Ukraine or whether it's Russia hitting their own cities to blame Ukraine, which is a thing. He continued, more recently, the Russian armed forces have dealt a couple of sensitive blows that are warning shots and threaten that more serious attacks could follow. Putin did not explicitly refer to the reported Ukrainian strikes on the base of the Russian 3rd Motorized Rifle Division near Vauklukli that occurred on September 16th, nor did he make clear which Russian actions he was referring to. But Russian forces have increased attacks on civilian infrastructure throughout Ukraine over the past several weeks as Russia media personalities increase explicit calls for such such attacks. Putin's comments are likely a part in response to criticism by Russian mill bloggers who attack the Kremlin for failing to protect Russian territory and for failing to respond adequately. One mill blogger asked if the Kremlin still regards Belgorod Oblast as part of Russia, part of the Special Military Operations Zone, or part of Ukraine. Another blamed the reported Ukrainian attack on Volukli and the so-called regrouping of Russian forces, which is referring to the initial language of the Russian Ministry of Defense used to describe the rout of Russian forces in Kharkiv, because that's what Russia said was happening, was that they were regrouping. That's what the Russian Ministry of Defense had said, that the reason why this mass retreat from the Kharkiv Oblast, as the Ukrainians launched this massive counteroffensive a week and a half, almost 2 weeks ago now. The Russians said that it was a tactical regrouping. Putin has increasingly shown a determination to appease the mill bloggers and the consequences they speak to and on behalf of, even at the expense of the uniformed Russian military and the Russian Ministry of Defense. So looks like the battle between the Kremlin and the mill bloggers are winning. I specifically subscribe to a couple of them now on Telegram so I can read it myself, and they're calling for open mobilization. They're calling for a full scale, like, stop calling it a special military operation, specifically more so from the Kadyriovites in the TikTok army, the Kadyrov's unit, right? So he's specifically calling for a localized general mobilization. So like a city like St. Petersburg and Moscow and some of these Russian cities, like self mobilize. Like, it's not like the Kremlin announces, hey, Russia, the full country of Russia is now mobilizing into Ukraine. They're not doing that, but the mill bloggers are asking, or they're kind of demanding that these smaller cities in Russia, or not smaller cities, but these cities in Russia start general mobilization, because they're not doing it. So between the Russian mill bloggers and the Kremlin, the Russian mill bloggers are winning as of now. The Ukrainian Resistance Center warned on the 16th that Russian forces are planning to conduct false flag attacks against civilian population in Russian-occupied Ukraine, and urged Ukrainians in occupied areas to avoid public places between the 17th and the 20th. The Resistance Center suggested that such false flag attacks could be attempts to divert the attention of the world community from the defeat in Kharkiv and the discovery of Russian war crimes in liberated areas. Because again, now that Ukraine has started its the counteroffensive's ongoing, they're still gaining ground. The territories that were controlled by Russia, we saw it in the BBC report. It's mass graves, war crimes, civilians talking about how they were tortured. So Russia's going to try to flood the news waves with false flag attacks and saying that Ukraine is committing terrorist acts on Russia. Likely going to see more. And honestly, if we see more strikes in Belgorod and Tangarog and these two Russian cities, me personally, it's hard for me to believe that Ukraine is striking those two cities, when every time that something is so blatantly like fucked up, which this whole thing is fucked up, but when it's like, for example, when the reports of the mass graves come out, Russia instantly will respond with strikes in their own cities, and then say that Ukraine is committing these, like kind of like a tit for tat garbage bullshit that they do. So let's get into it. Let's get into the full map breakdown. So map breakdown for the war in Ukraine here for day 207 of the war in Ukraine. Again, for September 17th, 2022, there's two main fronts in Ukraine at this time. You got the southern axis of Ukraine, which includes all the way from Kherson to Mariupol down into the Crimean Peninsula. And then you have the eastern front, also known as the Donbass. These are the two main fronts within Ukraine at this time. We're going to start with the east, and I'm going to start with Ukraine's counteroffensives that are taking place there. All right. So let's zoom into the east. I'm going to highlight all of the main cities to remember. All of these cities are important, but these are the ones that are commonly referred to. So you got the Ukrainian-controlled city of Izyum, Ukrainian-controlled city of Balikla. I'm going to highlight where the Ukrainian counteroffensives are moving. Okay, those are the Ukrainian counteroffensives, and then I got a couple more here in Sloviansk, and this is the most recent counteroffensives that have been launched now. Here south of Lyman, as the Ukrainians are looking to take back the city of Lyman, so they can push forward towards the Lugansk Oblast. Like, they only have this much of Kharkiv left to take. So I'm just going to highlight. So this is what's left of the Kharkiv Oblast. It's about 30 to 35 kilometers of map here that they have to take back. So once the Ukrainians get to this blue line on your screen, then the Ukrainians will have full control over the Kharkiv Oblast. This bleeds into different oblasts. Like, an oblast is like a country, or like a county, if you will. Like, if you live in the United States, they're like counties or parishes, or however your state describes. Like in Minnesota, we call them counties. So this is what's left of the Kharkiv Oblast. And then this is what's left of the Donetsk Oblast, and it touches. Same with Lugansk, this whole pocket. So the Donetsk Oblast touches Lyman and Sloviansk, extends all the way down here. This is all Donetsk Oblast here. This isn't perfect. I'm just trying to save some time. But that's Donetsk, right? So these counteroffensives that are taking place in the Donetsk Oblast, which is just south of the Kharkiv Oblast. So that's why it can be kind of confusing sometimes. You're like, wait, I thought this was in Kharkiv. Wait, I thought this was Donetsk. It's their oblasts, right? In cities, and the counteroffensives are happening in multiple oblasts in the same area, okay? So this is happening in the Donetsk Oblast, and why there's some new counteroffensives, hence the title, and we will get into that. So let's zoom in over there. We're going to zoom in specifically with Izyum and Sloviansk. Ukrainian-controlled city of Sloviansk. Ukrainian-controlled city of Izyum. Counteroffensives. Counteroffensives. Ukrainians trying to advance towards Lyman. Let's get the update. So counteroffensives in the east. The eastern Ukraine, which is Volochansk, Kupiansk, Izyum, Lyman line. New front line here. Let me actually make a... Now we can use this one. I'm going to use this one as the whole map to look at. Here's the area we're talking about. This front line. I'm going to circle it in the green. This is the new front line in the east for Ukrainian counteroffensives. Okay, so what I'm talking about is all within this green circle on your map. Ukrainian forces captured all of Kupiansk city on September 16th. Where is Kupiansk city? Right along this line of counteroffensives. Let's go and show you where it is. All of Kupiansk is now under Ukrainian control. Here's the city of Kupiansk. Let me highlight that. So you got Izyum, Ukrainian-controlled city of Izyum. Clear that out. And here is the city of Kupiansk. They've crossed the Oskil River. Right here, in case you can't see it well. Kupiansk is here, just to the northeast of Izyum. How far is it? Shout out to Dennis Davidov for the map with the distances. So from Izyum to Kupiansk, that is 58 kilometers away, right? That's the next largest city that the Ukrainians have recently liberated after they got through all of these cities here in the Kharkiv Oblast, Izyum, Balikla, and north. They recently have liberated the city of Kupiansk, 58, just under 60 kilometers away from Izyum. Geolocated footage confirms that Ukrainian forces established positions on the east bank of the Oskil River in Kupiansk. Russian forces will likely struggle to hold positions in eastern Kharkiv Oblast and in northern Lugansk Oblast as Ukrainian forces establish more positions on the east bank of the Oskil River. So in general, let me circle where Kupiansk is here. Here's where Kupiansk is. Now the Ukrainians they've already started to. It's not like this is new or breaking news, but the Ukrainians have been, since taking Izyum, they haven't stopped. This river called the Oskil River is the new front line, and it goes all the way up from Russia down to southeast of Izyum, down to Sviturisk. Connects right into the Seversky Donetsk River. And this is the new front line, and the Ukrainians have already started to advance to the eastern bank of this river to keep going, to keep advancing into this Russian territory. And the most recent victory, again, is in the city of Kupiansk, and they've advanced into Kupiansk-Vozlovi, which is on the eastern bank of the Oskol River. And we're seeing it here reflected on your map. Lugansk People's Republic People's Militia sources additionally claimed that Ukrainian forces struck Nizhina Duvanka, which is 20 kilometers north of Svidov in the Lugansk Oblast, with HIMARS. So the Lugansk People's Republic so the other update beyond Ukraine advancing across the Oskol River is going to be this city. Let's look up where this is. Nizhny Duvanka, which has been hit by HIMARS strikes. That is definitely in Lugansk Oblast territory. Okay, so I'm going to highlight where this is. Let me memorize it. Go back to our big map. Found it. Found it. So here's where we got locations of HIMARS strikes. Oops. Lost it. Found it. Here it is. Ukrainian strikes on the city of Nizhny Duvanka with HIMARS. So HIMARS in the chat, and you can see how far away is that from Kupiansk. If Ukrainians are already striking territory in the Lugansk Oblast, which signifies that they are going to be advancing further. So from Kupiansk to Nizhny Duvanka here, that's 42 kilometers away, so between 40 and 45 kilometers away, well within HIMARS range. And like I said, just because that these counteroffensives have slowed down, like in a physical sense, like Ukraine isn't just taking cities like they were 2 weeks ago. They need to move their artillery closer to the front lines. They got to get fresh equipment, fresh troops. They got MRAPs now. They got all types of vehicles and equipment that's going to help them get fresh troops and equipment and gear and supplies. They got to get their IFACs refilled, because I'm sure a lot of the combat units out there suffered some losses or definitely some injuries. So they got to get new medical supplies. They got to get food to the front line. They have to move everything that they had behind this, because again, this was all Russian territory. So you got to imagine the Ukrainians had their resources, just say they had them here or wherever. They had their artillery back here, because again, this blue was red. It was Russian territory. And now that the Russians have retreated eastward, the Ukrainians need to move this shit forward. They need to move this up. And now that they are, now the Ukrainians are able to hit targets in the Lugansk Oblast, and then we're going to likely see the Ukrainians try to at least finish the Kharkiv Oblast and advance into here. And again, here's where the Kharkiv Oblast line is. Loosely, it's not perfect, but that's where the rest of the Kharkiv Oblast is, and the Ukrainians are advancing across this river into the remaining territory that is left for the Ukrainians to take back. So between 40 and 45 kilometers away from the city of Kupiansk, we're already seeing and hearing reports of HIMARS strikes in Russian territory in the Lugansk Oblast. That definitely signals that the Ukrainians have begun moving their artillery closer to the new front line if they're able to hit targets in the Lugansk Oblast like this. Ukrainian forces reportedly shelled targets in Velyky and Belgorod Oblast, Russia, overnight on the 15th and the 16th. Belgorod Oblast Governor Vladislav Gladkov claimed that Ukrainian rounds struck a power substation in central Belgorod, and footage depicts damaged buildings and cars. A Russian source claimed that Ukrainian forces fired over 20 rounds at Velyky from positions 20 kilometers southwest of the city, which is in Ukrainian tube artillery range. The attack appears to have struck a base in the Russian 3rd Motorized Rifle Division just north of Velyky. Russian sources posted images of Tokayu missile that reportedly struck Velyky, but the images cannot be geolocated. Let's look up where Velyky is and what it looks like from a GPS perspective, because we can do that. So this is in Belgorod. Comment in the chat. You guys think this is, at this point, Ukraine striking targets in Russian territory? So here's the city of Velyuky. Apparently there's a big train station. The Tokayu missiles can't be geolocated. So Velyuky is situated on a critical Russian rail line to the northern Lugansk Oblast. Ukrainian forces have cut Russian ground lines and communications through the Kharkiv Oblast, likely forcing Russian forces to redirect logistics from the large bases and concentration points around Belgorod city through the Velyuky rail line. Sustained damage to this rail line would severely complicate Russian logistics, supporting the Russian defense of Lugansk Oblast and eastern Kharkiv Oblast. A Russian source stated that the Lugansk People's Republic 206th Regiment is defending in Russia itself near Velyuky, indicating that Russia is deploying proxy forces to screen Russian logistics, and additionally indicating the increasing Russian reliance on proxy forces for tasks even in Russia. Dang. So this report's basically just owning it. This report's owning that Ukraine is shelling Russian settlements in Russia. What do y'all think of that? I mean, a lot of this is coming from Russian sources, so keep that in mind. Not hearing Ukraine sources refute it, or anyone saying, hey, wait, no, we're not doing that. So nobody's refuting it, which often happens if Russia throws some out there. Like if it's bullshit, complete garbage, that'll be refuted at least. Hasn't even been refuted. And it continues, and we've been seeing it all summer. So, and it's wild to learn that Russia isn't even deploying its own military to protect its own cities. Belgorod is in Russia. It's not in Ukraine. It's not a Russian-controlled Ukrainian city. That's why the Russian media is like trolling the Kremlin, saying, "Is Belgorod a Ukrainian? Is Belgorod in the special military operation zone?" Because it continues to get shelled. Russia's not even sending their own units there. They're sending proxy forces to go fight in Belgorod. So it doesn't even look like it's being denied at this point. Let's see how far away it is. Velyuky in Belgorod. So there it is. So where would be the closest? That is in Ukrainian range now. Here's Velyuky, dead center of your screen. Trying to figure out what's the closest. Damn, that is in range. That's to the southeast of Belgorod. How far away is it from Belgorod? That's a good distance. So here's the Russian city. This is in Russia, not Ukraine. Russian city of Belgorod. Maybe I'll do a poll. I'll do a poll what you guys think. And then the Russian city of Velyuky. Let's see the distance here. Again, shout out to Dennis for this amazing map and the work that Dennis's team does. Oops. There we go. So from Belgorod to Velyuky, that is 115 kilometers away. 115 kilometers from the Russian city of Belgorod. So we got reports, again, reports of shellings on Russian settlements in Velyuky. Russian forces continue to defend against Ukrainian counteroffensive operations in northeastern Ukraine. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Russian forces shelled Prishtin, which is northeast of Izyum on the west bank of the Oskil River, likely to prevent Ukrainian forces from establishing another bridgehead over the river. So we got the city of Prishtin. They've already crossed in a couple places. So we're going back down now. So that's the report from Velyuky. Well, that's not it. That's not it either. Let's see if I can find that city name again. That's definitely not it. Northeast of Izyum. Maybe we might have to find this. We might have to look at this one ourselves. Okay, northeast of Izyum. How far? It's not coming up in maps. This is probably a settlement more than it is even a city. Northeast, okay. Let's go find it. There's Oskil, Bakhtin. It's gonna be hard to find. Oh, there it is. No, it's not. Found it. Okay, so the Russians are shelling the city of Prishtin here. So I'm gonna just do a red X. Here's where the city of Prishtin, or the settlement of Prishtin, I should say. It's very small. As the Russians are trying to prevent the Ukrainians from crossing the river in any further, because they've crossed. I'll show you all where they've crossed. Ukrainians have crossed here. They've crossed here. They've crossed here. They've crossed here. They've crossed here. And they've crossed here. So the Russians are trying to slow this down in any places that they can. And that is where the city of, again, the city of Prishtin is located. Geolocated images from September 15th confirm that Russian forces maintained positions in Lyman. However, the Ukrainian General Staff reported that Russian forces shelled Lyman, indicating that Ukrainian forces may have gained some gains around the settlement. So this is stepping away from that line. We're going to be focused on Sloviansk and Lyman, specifically here. So you got the Russian-controlled city of Lyman. Here's Sloviansk, and the Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing towards it. The Russians did have control of some of this territory on the other side of the Seversky Donetsk River here. The Ukrainians did not have full control of this area. And now, as of the 16th and the 17th, these last 2 days, the Ukrainians have completed their front line here as they're trying to advance on Lyman, connecting this territory. So it's full-on Ukrainian-controlled territory now, as the Ukrainians are trying to advance even up further northeastward towards the city of Lyman. I still remember when Russia took the city of Lyman. As part of their advancements, when the invasion began, and we were tracking the east, and I still remember the day the Ukrainians left Lyman, and now here they are, full steam ahead. Likely going to be taking back the city of Lyman in the next week. Honestly, they've already advanced. They're right outside the city limits, and this is the newest. Again, this is in Donetsk Oblast, just south of Kharkiv and southwest of Lugansk. Because again, this is all, this little pocket here, this pocket connects 3 oblasts. I'll circle it. This right here, this pocket is 3 oblasts alone: Kharkiv, Lugansk, and Donetsk. Okay, so a lot of these counteroffensives you hear, and I touched on it when I started, is in different oblasts, but they're in like the same area, right? It's all a part of the same counteroffensive and the units that are happening, but there's 3 oblasts here that things are taking place. So when specifically in reference to the title of this live stream, when you hear Donetsk, a lot of people think, oh no, are the Ukrainians advancing on the city of Donetsk, which is down here, right? Because you got the city of Donetsk, and then you got the Donetsk Oblast, which the Oblast takes up loosely this entire space, right? This is the whole Oblast of Donetsk. Okay, and Donetsk, oh, that got wild. Here's the whole Oblast of Donetsk. And then the city of Donetsk is in this blue circle on the southern region of your map. So the Ukrainians aren't advancing into Donetsk city. There isn't a counteroffensive happening on Donetsk city, rather from Sloviansk up into Lyman, which is still in the Donetsk Oblast, okay? Remember that. You got city of Donetsk, which is where the DPR is from, the Donetsk People's Republic, and the Russians are actually having some marginal successes there. This counteroffensive is happening from Sloviansk up to Lyman. And if the Ukrainians can take this northern tip of the Donetsk Oblast, that will help significantly. And then they can advance right from Donetsk Oblast right into Lugansk, right? And then they can advance from Kharkiv and Donetsk Oblast into Lugansk and kind of have a 2-pronged counteroffensive advancing into that region. Okay. Ukrainian sources. Okay, I haven't read this one. Ukrainian sources confirm previous reports that Ukrainian forces struck Russian rear positions in Lugansk Oblast on the 15th. This is likely what we talked about a second ago with the HIMARS strikes into Russian territory in the Lugansk Oblast. So that's huge. You got HIMARS strikes in Lugansk. Right there. Remember, that's likely going to continue as the new front line has moved a lot closer. Now the Ukrainians can actually hit targets in Lugansk. Ukrainian sources confirmed previous reports that Ukrainian forces struck Russian rear positions in Lugansk Oblast on the 15th and the 16th. The Ukrainian General Staff reported on September 16th that Ukrainian forces struck a Russian concentration area, causing many casualties among Russian servicemen in Prevolatsk in the Lugansk Oblast, likely on the 15th. Geolocated images show the aftermath of a Ukrainian strike on an LNR base in Kadvidka, also likely from September 15th. Study War reported on Russian claims of a series of Ukrainian strikes in rear Lugansk oblasts, including Prevolatsk and Kadvidka on the 15th. So that's just giving some specifics there about Ukrainian strikes. Drop HIMARS in the chat. From these HIMARS strikes, again, I've touched on it a couple times, Ukraine moving their artillery closer to the front line. That's why we're seeing strikes in Lugansk now. It just makes sense. Now the maximum effective range is now into the Lugansk Oblast. It was in the Kharkiv Oblast, but now since the Ukrainians have wiped the Russians almost nearly completely out of the Kharkiv Oblast, new front line, new line of artillery. Now artillery can hit targets in Lugansk. Okay. In response to that, now let's go into the Russian effort. So I gave you the Ukrainian counteroffensives that are happening in the east. Now this is what the Russians are doing in the marginal, because they are having some marginal success, incremental success around Bakhmut and Adviivka. So I'm gonna let you know what's changed on that. So now the main Russian effort here in eastern Ukraine. Wild that most of the report now is the Ukrainian counteroffensives. I used to spend at least a half hour talking about what Russia's doing, and now that's like, this is going to take 2 minutes. You got Popasna, Donetsk, Horlivka. I even got these memorized. Here's the Russian advancements in Soledar, and then Zadetsiv, which has diminished. The Russian advance in Zadetsiv is diminished here south of Bakhmut, and you got the Russians trying to advance south of Bakhmut from Horlivka, and then in Donetsk you got the Russians that have been trying to advance in Pisky and Marinka. Okay, so this is the Russian activity now in the east. Here's the Ukrainian controlled city of Bakhmut. Here's the Ukrainian controlled city of Adviivka. Okay, this is a real short update. Russian forces conducted limited ground attacks across the eastern axis and continued routine fire along the line of contact on the 16th. The Ukrainian General Staff reported that Ukrainian forces repelled Russian ground assaults directly on Bakhmut and south of the city. So I got to draw one more line. So the Russians attempted an advance straight on to Bakhmut as well. I'm going to draw a blue X. So the Ukrainians stopped the advancement here and here, so directly on the city and south of Bakhmut. So two attempted Russian advances, both have been quelled by the Ukrainian military. Ukrainian Donetsk Oblast head Pavlo Korolenko stated that Russian forces used S-300 anti-air systems in a ground attack role to strike Sledov, likely to cut off Ukrainian ground lines of communication in southern Donetsk Oblast and in central Ukraine. Russian forces have previously used air defense systems to strike ground targets in southern Ukraine and Kharkiv Oblast, but have not previously done so extensively in the east, indicating further Russian deficiencies in precision fire munitions. Geolocated footage shows Russian forces striking Ukrainian positions east of Spirny on an unspecified date. So you got Russia striking the city of Spirny. No reports of advances. They attempted. Okay, so this is up southeast of Seversk. So this is a little bit of ways. Here's Spirny. It's gonna be right here. I should circle that red so you know it's Russian. Red Russian, blue Ukraine. Should be self-explanatory, but in case you don't know by now. So here's the city of Spirny, just southeast of Seversk, and that just, again, Russian forces have been attacking it. They have not advanced into the territory. So there's been that's it for the Russians in the east. They're reeling right now. They're got a lot. The Russian forces have a lot to deal with just north of this, because just north of this is this, right? The massive Ukrainian counteroffensives that are sweeping just north of this. This is what we're looking at from the Russians, right? This is the region we're looking at from Bakhmut down to Adviivka. Here's the Russian front line, if you will. Dang, that's just south of the Ukrainian counteroffensives. If the Ukrainians are able to continue this, say they take the northern tip of this Donetsk Oblast, and then they take Kharkiv, which this is the most likely, the most realistic ground gains that we're going to likely see the Ukrainians get before winter. I don't think we're going to see the Ukrainians sweep across the Lugansk Oblast and go nuts here. Could prove me wrong. I've been proven wrong many times, but realistically, we're likely going to see this northern tip of Donetsk in Lyman, and then the Ukrainians finish off taking the rest of or liberating the Kharkiv Oblast. That's going to put the Russians down here in a tough spot, because then Ukraine controls all of this northern region of the Donbass and can just start launching attacks south. They can just start moving south and getting artillery and anything they need in Kramatorsk, start establishing a base in Lyman if they can. This Ukrainian counteroffensives that are advancing northeastward from Seversk, if they can take Lysychansk back, that is crucial. I don't know. They're trying to. Don't know if that's going to be anytime soon, but Lysychansk is a hugely tactical, advantageous city. It's on a hill. It looks at Severodonetsk from above, so it's just a major city for the Ukrainians to take back. That's going to put these any Russian advances here in a tough spot, because the Ukrainians will have all of the land north of them. We're likely going to see the Russians peel back. We haven't seen any reports of the Russians advancing any further in the areas that they have. It's been very incremental, very marginal. They have to fight over city blocks, like a street here, a street there, in Bakhmut and Advidka. We just got the report of all of the advancements directly onto the cities. So even here in Advidka, which isn't a part of the report, but in general, the advancements onto Advidka have also failed the straight attack method. So that's why you're seeing in a couple places here on Bakhmut and Advidka, the Russians trying the same strategy on both cities, the same strategy they did on Severodonetsk and Lysychansk. They couldn't take Severodonetsk and Lysychansk straight on, so they needed to go outward in north of the city and south of the city to try to flank it, so they can advance on the city from different directions, because the advancing directions from the Russians straight onto these cities have all failed. They can't do it. They can't break the Ukrainian defenses, so that's why you're seeing the Russians try to advance north of Bakhmut, south of Bakhmut, north of Advidka, south of Advidka, trying to push these front lines outward. That's what the Russians are trying to do. Doesn't mean they're going to do it. Doesn't mean they're going to have success. That's just what their goal is right now. And as the Ukrainians continue their sweep across the Kharkiv Oblast and finish taking that Oblast, likely going to be seeing the Russians slow down here, even though they already are at a snail's pace. We're going to slow down even more, or even likely pull their troops back to try to assist in the Lugansk Oblast, with the Ukrainians advancing just north of them. That this is all happening just north of Donetsk. The Ukrainians just having massive successes here. So in the last 24 hours, in the last day in general, there's a lot going on here. Just trying to try to simplify the main things that are happening. Is you got the Ukrainians advancing in areas across the Oskil River, including taking the city of Kupiansk. So you got the Ukrainians advancing across the Oskil River in certain areas. You got the Ukrainian military hitting Russian targets in Lysychansk with HIMARS. So you got some key Russian targets now being hit in Lugansk Oblast. You got the Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing from Sloviansk towards Lyman. Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing towards Lyman. And then you have the Ukrainians holding off the advancement from the Russians directly onto Bakhmut from Popasna. Again, these are going to be the Wagner private military contractors that are advancing towards Bakhmut. It's where they're stationed. So the advancement from the Russian military onto Bakhmut failed, and then south of Bakhmut also failed. The Ukrainians were able to hold them off. And that is the latest within the entire east of the Ukraine. Next, we're going to go into the southern axis. All right, any questions you guys have, feel free to ask. I'll read the chat more so when I'm done with the map update, and we go on to the video section, which after the map update, we're not done with the live stream. A lot of y'all dip out when I'm done, but we go through video and combat footage and get into what's going on the ground through video. because it's important to see it, not just me tell y'all what's going on. So that's it for the east. Now we're going to go to the south of Ukraine and Ukraine's counteroffensives that are happening in Kherson, including some major footage that has come out. We're going to start right with that. I'm going to start with that here in the south before I do any reading. This is in Kherson. This is huge happenings that just started happening before I went live a couple hours, and this is in the Russian occupied city of Kherson. Let me pull it up. This is in the Russian occupied city of Kherson, and we have firefights taking place in the city. Full-on firefights near the railway station. It's reportedly with special Ukrainian special forces units. They don't know who they're fighting right now in Kherson. Likely Ukrainian special forces, but the Russians are fighting someone in Kherson. Let's take a look.
Контртеррористическая операция в самом разгаре, прямо в самом центре Херсона.
So again, that's a look right outside the railway station in Kherson. You got ground fighting taking place in the city. Here's another video. More from central Kherson. Heavy large caliber guns can be heard. Significant clashes. Significant clashes in Kherson. Doesn't get any more real than that. You got fighting going on in the streets of Kherson. Here's the video prior. Rob Lee actually shared this, so we'll get to it again when we get to our video section of the stream. But again, one more time, here's the fighting taking place in Kherson City. Ground fighting in the city of Kherson. If you don't know where Kherson is, one more time, here is our map. It's where the Ukrainians said that their counteroffensives were going to happen, and they have been hitting Russian targets here. They have been hitting key Russian bridges and logistical points and ammunition depots. So it's not like their counteroffensives were a lie. It's not like they did complete smoke and mirrors, but everyone thought that the Ukrainians were going to advance south and start taking land back and territory like they are in the east. It was a big smoke and mirror for what's going on in the east, but this is the first indication of there's fighting in the city of Kherson. No longer on the outskirts. This is within Kherson City. One more time.
Контртеррористическая операция в самом разгаре, прямо в самом центре Херсона.
Big footage there. Huge footage. I haven't looked and seen if there's anything else. Yeah, I mean, just lots of video, lots of the same two videos being posted. I try to find other videos of happenings. Here's another one. OSINT technical, something going on in Kherson. Some speculation that different Russian units are shooting at each other. So it's a mess. They don't know if it's Ukrainian special forces. They don't know if it's partisans. They don't know if it's Ukrainian military in Kherson. It could be the Russians fighting each other. Very intense. the chat really quick. I'm gonna play this one more time for visuals, but I'm gonna put a poll. I want to know, what do you think is going on in Kherson? Do you think this is Russia fighting each other? Do you think the separatists and they're fighting I don't know. That's the Russians could be fighting each other. I'd be more inclined to believe that in the east, because the Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics are not going to go fight in other oblasts. Like, they don't want to do that, but yet Russia's like, hey, you gotta go, hey, LNR, you gotta go fight in Donetsk, which totally defeats the entire purpose of whatever. Or do you think it's special forces? Do you think it's part of like Ukrainian resistance fighters in Kherson? Firefighting is happening in Kherson City. I would like to know what you guys think. So I'm gonna play the video one more time while I get this poll up in the chat. Thank you so much, Victor, for joining the channel. So we'll come back to that again. We'll touch on that when we get to the video clip section of the live stream. We're going through the map right now. So that is taking place in Kherson. I'd like to know what you guys think. I put a poll on YouTube. We got who is fighting in Kherson. Your choices are Russia on Russia. So like Russian, and that's just in general. So Russian forces versus Russian forces. You got Russia versus Ukraine special forces, Russia versus Ukraine resistance, and then unknown is an answer too. If you don't know, that's a good answer to put too. So that is the latest what's happening in Kherson. I don't even know if that's going to be a part of the report yet. That was just posted before I went live, and I couldn't not show y'all, because that's huge that there's ground fighting taking place in Kherson. So now, broadly, the southern axis of Ukraine, now that we just left Kherson, here's the main Ukrainian controlled cities in the southern axis. You got Mykolaiv, Odessa, Kryvyi Rih, Nikopol, which is just on the other side of the Zaporizhia NPP, and the city of Inodahar on the other side of the Dnieper River. Here's Zaporizhia itself, and then I'm going to highlight the Ukrainian counteroffensive directions in the southern axis of Ukraine. Here is the counteroffensives and the lines, and then here's the main Russian-controlled cities in southern Ukraine. Kherson, for now, Novokhovka, Melitopol, Berdyansk, Mariupol, and then here's the Zaporizhia NPP and Inodahar. Russian forces did not conduct any ground assaults in Zaporizhia Oblast west of Huliopol, and continued routine fire on western Zaporizhia Oblast frontline against Ukrainian rear areas in Mykolaiv Oblast on the 16th. Ukraine's Southern Operational Command reported that Russian forces fired cruise missiles from positions in the Black Sea at port infrastructure in Okochiv, Mykolaiv Oblast, less than 10 kilometers across the Dnipropetrovsk Gulf from the Kinburn split in Kherson Oblast. The Russian Ministry of Defense confirmed the strike on Okochiv. Russian forces also fired on hydraulic infrastructure in Kryvyi Rih, Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, again on the 16th. So Okochiv. Russian forces struck the city. Both sides have admitted to it. Just in this pocket from the Black Sea. Perfect. I got that. So here's where Okochiv is. The Russian forces, I'm gonna do a red X to signify this is where the Russian forces have struck. And it's not a part of it's not a front line here. Anywhere that's in the white space is just Ukraine. There isn't ground battles happening. There isn't troops. Ukraine, I'm sure, has their troops all across their country, but there isn't direct ground fighting between Russian forces and Ukrainian forces in the white space of the map. So this location of Ukraine here, there isn't anything taking place here, just like Odessa or in Kyiv now at this point, in the capital. There isn't a fight over the city or over the Oblast. It's just Russia sending missiles towards civilian cities. So you have this is the Black Sea. This is the Black Sea down here, and you have Russian forces launching Kaliber cruise missile strikes towards the city of Okachiv, which is reflected on the map down here. So again, this is where the Russian ships are launching a cruise missile towards the city of Okachiv. Ukrainian forces likely struck Melitopol airfield overnight on September 15th to the 16th. Ukrainian Melitopol Mayor Ivan Fedorov reported that explosions occurred at the airfield and posted footage of Russian air defenses activating amid multiple audible explosions. Zaporizhzhia Occupation Administration Council member Vladimir Rogov reported explosions in Melitopol overnight, but did not specify a cause. So the Russians even admitted to it. So Ukrainian forces striking key positions in Melitopol. So I'm just going to put a couple blue X's in Melitopol to reflect that. So far, the Ukrainians striking a couple positions in Melitopol, and the Russians striking the city of Okachiv. International Atomic Energy Agency Board of Governors passed a resolution on the 15th calling on Russia to cease all operations at and against the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant and any other nuclear facilities in Ukraine. Keep in mind, this is the second nuclear facility that they've occupied. They occupied Chernobyl immediately during the invasion, in which their troops dug trenches and are now suffering from radiation poisoning. Now they're doing the exact same thing in Zaporizhzhia. It's like short-term memory. People have just short-term memory and either likely out of ignorance or just choose to forget because of how these atrocities are hard to explain to a normal person. So what Russia's actions are, it's hard to continue to explain them and try to make sense of them instead of just making direct action towards Russia here. But the Board of Governors from the IAEA have passed a resolution now saying that, hey, listen, they must cease all operations or cease all military operations in these occupied nuclear facilities. And this is the second one that they've taken. So we'll see if that does actually cease. Russian forces continued routine fire on settlements on the north bank of the Kakhovka Reservoir, likely from positions in and around Inodahar on the south bank. So then you have Russian strikes around Inodahar, around the Zaporizhzhia NPP. This is where the nuclear plant is. That's some Russian strikes here as well, with the red X's. Okay, so that's the supporting effort for the Russian military. Now let's go into the Ukrainian counteroffensives in the south of Ukraine. I did that backwards. In the east I do Ukrainian counteroffensives first. They just have it labeled differently. So that's the Russian side, right? So the Russian side reported Ukrainian strikes in Melitopol. There was a strike on the city of Okachiv as well as around the Zaporizhzhia NPP. So now we're going to go more specifically into the Ukrainian counteroffensives in the southern axis of Ukraine. Ukrainian military officials are continuing their operational silence regarding the progress of the southern counteroffensive, noting that fighting continued along the southern axis without reporting any territorial changes. Ukraine's Southern Operational Command reported that Russian forces continued battery fire against Ukrainian positions and attempted to regroup frontline troops. Ukrainian government and local sources reported mounting Russian casualties and the deployment of low-quality Russian units along the Kherson front. The local Russia media in the city of the UFA reported that members of Shumatera Volunteer Battalion operating around Mykolaiv have not communicated with UFA residents for over a week. Wife of one volunteer stated the Russian Ministry of Defense is not picking up her calls and that recruitment centers are the only state that the volunteers are aboard. That recruitment centers only state that the volunteers are abroad. I read that wrong. So they're asking the wife of these Russian volunteers are asking what's going on with their loved ones. The Ministry of Defense isn't answering calls. They're just saying that they're in Ukraine. They're not going to answer any questions. They're not going to get any money that they've been promised. These monthly payments in rubles that they continue to offer these volunteer units. We're not going to receive that. There's already been plenty of evidence suggesting that that's not going to happen, including the wives and significant others of Russian troops that go on video or make a video afterwards, and they're calling their Ministry of Defense on the report, and the Ministry of Defense isn't answering, or they lie to the person right on the phone. We've seen it. Ukraine forces struck Russia's occupation headquarters in Kherson, likely using HIMARS on September 16th. Local social media reported that 5 Ukrainian rockets struck the Kherson Administrative Court building, which houses Russia's occupation administration, depicted heavy damage. I think I have a video of that. I do have a video of that. So here is the strike on the Russian administration building in Kherson that was hit by 5 HIMARS rockets. So again, we're going back to the city of Kherson. Going back to the the Russian-controlled city of Kherson. Let me pull that up here. Clear all this out. Here's Kherson again. Same city that we watched the firefights take place right now. Here's the 5 HIMARS strikes on the administration building. So yesterday you had strikes on a Russian an admin building. Tonight you got ground fighting in Kherson. Listen, I'm no guru or anything, but usually when something happens the day before, and then tonight we're seeing ground fights in Kherson, they're often connected in a way. I mean, at least just in this war they have been oftentimes connected, or at least they're related to each other. The two events are in partnership in some way. The Ukrainian General Staff claimed that Ukrainian strikes are severely degrading Russian morale. Ukraine's Southern Operational Command reported that Ukrainian missile and artillery units struck Russian concentrations in Borislav, Dorivka, and Staryats Drobrivka, as well as a pontoon crossing in Zotatsky Rayon. Ukrainian and Russian sources indicated 3 areas of kinetic activity on the 16th and the 17th, northwest of Kherson City, near the Ukrainian bridgehead over the Inhlovets River, and south of the Kherson-Dnipropetrovsk border, west of Vitskopilia. Mill bloggers and DNR officials claim that Russian VDV airborne forces repelled a Ukrainian attack near Provatny, which is northwest of Kherson City, on the 16th. However, Ukraine's General Staff reported that Russian forces shelled Ukrainian positions in Provatny, indicating Ukrainian forces have likely, at minimum, entered the town. So let's look at where Provatny is. This is northwest of Kherson City. See if I can find it without Googling it. Northwest of Kherson City, Provatny. Probably not. I'm going to have to look this one. Okay, that's okay. Provatny and Kherson. Okay, so this is to the north. Okay, just off the M14. Why? It's got to be right over here. Okay, let me try that again. Okay. Just off. Okay, next to Slodatsky. Whenever I find the new city for the first time, this is the process. M14. Okay, and then I memorize it. Why is it not showing up here? It should be, oh, here. No. It should be like right in here. It's not even incorporated on this map. 1 second, chat. Provatny, northwest of Kherson City. We're too far over now. It should be in this. It should be in this zone. There's Donetsk. Oh my goodness. Stepova Dolnya. Okay, it's in this it's in this region. Oh man, am I taking an L and not finding a city? Parashiv, that's not it. Yo. Donetsk. That's not even popping up over here. Let's see if I can find it on Pokrovsky. Wasad, Pokrovsky. Why? It's not even... These cities aren't even showing up the same. I can't be looking at the same. Yeah, I am. All right. Well, we're going to move on from this, chat, because I can't find it. It's in this region, though, directly on the screen. I cannot find the exact city to show y'all, but I promise you it's there. I found it on the Google Maps. Here it is on Google Maps. That's annoying. Sometimes they're unincorporated, they're settlements, they're small, but at least I found it on Google Maps here. So it's just in that pocket, just off that highway. Just off the highway. So the Russian forces repelled a Ukrainian attack near there. However, Ukraine's general staff reported that Russian forces shelled Ukrainian positions in Provatny, indicating Ukrainian forces have likely at minimum entered the town. Geolocated footage depicted a DNR military correspondent in Oleksandrivka, which is directly west of Kherson City, on the 16th, confirming that Russian forces retained control of the town despite recent Ukrainian assaults. Imagery released by pro-Russian Telegram channels confirmed that Russian forces repelled an assault by Ukrainian naval infantry in the Adrivka area near the Ukrainian bridgehead over the Inhlowets River on the 16th. Russian bloggers reported that Ukrainian forces continued to deploy troops and equipment to the Andriivka and Bilohorivka areas, but that rising water levels in the Inhlowets River due to Russian strikes on dams in Kryvyi Rih have blocked half of the Ukrainian crossing points. So the main effort, you got the Inhlowets River. I'm going to highlight where that is. Here's the Russian-controlled city of Kherson. I'm going to use purple to highlight the river. You got the Dnieper River here that connects Kherson to Novokhovka, and here is the Inhlowets River. Loosely, it's not perfect, but it does this. Okay, all the way up to Kryvyi Rih, and there's been flooding as the Russians have shelled some key targets that have flooded the Inhlowets River. That's making it very hard for the Ukrainians to cross the river and get into this eastern bank of the Inhlowets River near Davdiv Brid. Ukraine's general staff reported Russian forces shelled Novotoprivka, which is south of Kryvyi Rih, on the 16th, suggesting that Ukrainian forces occupy the town despite previous claims that to have repelled Ukrainian attacks on the town. So here's Oleksandrivka, just to the west of Kherson. It is in Russian control again. So this city goes back and forth between Ukrainian and Russian control, and based upon geolocated footage, it is back within Russian control. Okay, so that city continues to be fought over. So that's about it. Ukrainian forces are still advancing. You have the ground battles taking place within the city of Kherson. The Russians have shelled targets around Inodahar, around the Zaporizhia NPP. They shelled the city of Okachev in Mykolaiv Oblast. The Russians have taken back the city of Oleksandrivka, and the Ukrainians are trying to advance and extend this Ukrainian counteroffensive near Davdiv Brid on the eastern bank of the Inhlowets River. They're trying to increase their ground that they're gaining very incrementally, but it's difficult due to the flooding of the Inhlowets River from Kryvyi Rih. And it's making the Ukrainian counteroffensives in this northern pocket very difficult to continue. But beyond that, there isn't anything else to report from the southern axis of Ukraine in the Ukrainian counteroffensives, as well as the Russian advance. There hasn't been any territory changes. Nothing's changed on the ground. The Russians haven't gained any ground. The Ukrainians have not gained any ground in their liberations either. So activity in Russian occupied areas. So this is activity that is going on within cities that are occupied by Russia still. So like Kherson, Melitopol, Berdyansk, Mariupol, Donetsk, Lugansk, Horlivka, some of these, and in the Crimean Peninsula, these are the cities that Russia still has a hold over, and what is going on within those cities. Unidentified assailants detonated an IED in the office of the Russian appointed LNR Prosecutor General in Lugansk City, Lugansk Oblast, killing LNR Prosecutor General Sergei Gorenko and Deputy Prosecutor General Yekaterina Steldenko on the 16th. LNR head Leonid Peshchinik called the attack a terroristic act and demonstrated that the Kyiv regime has gone beyond all limits. DNR head Denis Pushlin also denounced it as a Ukrainian terrorist attack. Russia's investigative committee immediately ordered the opening of a criminal investigation into the attacks. So likely resistance members in Lugansk, Ukrainian resistance members killed a Russian-appointed prosecutor general in Lugansk. The administration in Lugansk is blaming Kyiv and Zelensky's administration, labeling it a Ukrainian terrorist attack. Again, it was likely just a resistance attack of Ukrainians living in occupied cities. You're going to have resistance, and you're going to have civilians that are going to physically take action above or and congruent with their military actions. The immediate and coordinated Russian responses to the attack suggests that Ukrainian partisans may not be responsible for the LNR assassination. Ukrainian President Advisor Mykola Podolyak did not attribute the attack to partisans, but instead offered two theories. So this is coming from Ukraine sources. So it might be a little different than what I think. But Ukrainian presidential, so the two theories are the killings were as a result of an organized crime groups feuding over sharing looted property, or that Russian forces conducted a purge of those who witnessed Russian war crimes. Russian forces have already proven themselves capable of large-scale false flag attacks that threaten their own personnel or infrastructure, as they did with falsified strike on Olenivka prison on the 28th. That's the prison that I already forgot. Oh my goodness. See, this is how forgettable. Steven Seagal had went to the prison and completely became a Russian puppet. Like Vladimir Putin used him as a puppet and had his hand up his rear and was talking through the Kremlin, saying that Ukraine did that, but it was a false flag attack by the Russian military. Unidentified assailants also killed the Russian-appointed Zaporizhzhia Occupation Administration's deputy head of housing and communal services, Oleg Byoko, and the Berdyansk Occupational Central Election Committee head, Ludmila Boyko, on the 16th. Russian millbloggers blame the couple's death on terrorists. Ukrainian forces separately arrested the head of the People's Militia of Baliklia on the 16th as he attempted to escape from liberated Kupiansk to Russian-occupied Lugansk Oblast. Ukraine's SBU said that the man ran recruitment for and managed the illegal pro-Russia militia on behalf of the Russian occupiers. So you got things going on with the Russians trying to respond to the death of their prosecutor general in the LNR, and then Ukraine is going to be bringing the People's Militia of Baliklia leader to justice and likely have a trial for that person who managed the illegal pro-Russia militia on behalf of Russia. So they're going to be facing some accountability there from the Ukrainian forces. All in all, here's some key takeaways from everything that I just went through. So a summary, if you will. The discovery of mass graves and torture chambers in liberated Izyum confirms previous reports that the Bucha atrocities were emblematic of Russian activities in occupied areas rather than just an anomaly. Russian President Vladimir Putin apparently threatened to expand Russia's attacks on civilian infrastructure if Ukraine continues reported attacks on military facilities in Russia. The Ukrainian Resistance Center warned that Russian forces may conduct false flag attacks in occupied areas between the 17th and the 20th. Ukrainian forces captured all of Kupiansk city on the 16th, continuing offensive operations east of the Oskol River. Ukrainian forces reportedly shelled targets in Volukli and Belgorod Oblast, Russia, overnight on September 15th and 16th. Ukrainian forces struck Russia's occupation headquarters in Kherson, likely using HIMARS, and are continuing ground maneuvers in 3 areas of Kherson Oblast as part of the ongoing southern counteroffensive. Russian administrative officials are rallying around Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov's call for self-mobilization at a local level to promote and provide additional forces to the Russian military. Forced Russian mobilization campaigns are likely depleting male populations in parts of the claimed territory of the Russian proxy Donetsk and Lugansk People's Republics along the front lines. Immediate and coordinated Russian information responses suggest that Ukrainian partisans may not be responsible for the September 16th assassination of the Lugansk People's Republic Prosecutor General and his deputy. And that is the map breakdown for the war in Ukraine as of September 17th. So we're going to continue on here. We're going to go into the latest video clips. Any questions y'all have in the chat, feel free to ask. Just at me at Mercado Media on YouTube. It is member chat Saturday, so the chat is set to members only. That will be returned back to everyone can chat tomorrow. This is just a Saturday only thing. Thank you to everybody that's choosing to be a member of the channel, a supporter of the Facebook page. I don't have any sponsors yet sponsoring my work, so I can get a guaranteed, keep going. So everybody that chooses to be a member and a supporter, thank y'all so much for continuing to be one and allow me to continue the work that I do. So right away here, we're going to continue on with some reports from Rob Lee starting from yesterday. And we're going to go right back into the strikes on the administration building in Russian occupied Kherson. So again, this is back in Kherson. These are the 5 HIMARS strikes on the administrative building in the city. In case you might have missed it, we went through it a little earlier. We're going to start here and go down the timeline. Anything new that we come across, we'll geolocate it or point out where it's at. So that's at the administrative building in Kherson. Oops. Here's another video. The LNR Prosecutor General is, this is the LNR now. So this has to do with the explosion on the Prosecutor General that I just read through from the Lugansk Oblast. Responding to that IED strike on the Prosecutor General. Up-armored Russian Tiger M and R-16605 RTEC communications vehicle with what looks like an RP-377 UMVM-2 RCIED jammer in Lugansk. An RCIED jammer. Also, if y'all could spam those reactions on Facebook, hit that like button, like the video on YouTube too. We're live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time. Here's an apparent member of Wagner who got into a fight with Rozga members at a hotel in Vorozna after returning from Ukraine. He repeatedly mentions that he fought for his country. So you got Wagner group fighting with Rozga, which is the Russian National Guard. Good, let them kill each other. Dang. Alright, so that's Russia on Russia. Rozga versus the Wagner group. Prigozhin is in charge of the Wagner group, the hot dog boy. So he leads the Wagner private military company, and then he's fighting with the Rozga troops, which actually is Russia's National Guard. A Russian T-90M tank with soft armor reportedly in Melitopol. More cannon fodder for Ukrainian HIMARS arriving in Melitopol on a truck. T-90 tank. Man, that tank is supposed to be something scary. Not in Russia control, though. Not with Russia operators. That tank might as well be a T-64 or a T-62. continue. So here's the firefight again. If you missed it a little earlier, I played it. This is in Kherson. This was posted between 7 to 8 hours ago. So this is going to be overnight from the 17th into the 18th. So this is recent and relevant. Firefights taking place in the city of Kherson.
Контртеррористическая операция в самом разгаре, прямо в самом центре Херсона.
So moving past that, let's see what our poll is at right now on YouTube. We're sitting at, I don't have the numbers. Mason. Okay, now I do. So the majority believes it was Russia versus Ukraine's resistance at 34%, followed by Russia on Russia. So like Russian forces fighting each other. We just saw a video of Wagner Group physically fighting the Rosgavierda. So it's happening. It's not like it's not happening. So it could be Russia on Russia. That's the second most voted for option. Third most voted for is unknown. Understandable. And then the last one is going to be Russia versus Ukraine's special forces. That's only 19%, but it's pretty tight for beliefs here, but the majority being Russia versus Ukraine resistance fighters in Kherson. We'll stay up on that and see if there's any more video coming out of Kherson. That's going to be it for Rob Lee's timeline. Not many videos coming out. We got an update from John. A couple updates from John. Here's from yesterday, which I didn't get to see this one yesterday, but here's from day 205. Vladimir Putin looks like a gangster who knows his goose is cooked. Sorry about wind noise. Hopefully it's not copyrighted. John Sweeney.
War Diary Day 205 of Vladimir Putin's war. It's windy. Sorry, I need to get a fluffy thing. Vladimir Putin, the other day, there was a kind of picture of him and President Xi, the strongman of China, Lukashenko, the absurd pig farmer dictator of Belarus, and other dictators from the ex-Soviet space. None of them were wearing ties. Do fuck off. Queen's dead. Wear a black tie for a couple of days. Although I never wear a tie, I am now, partly because Vladimir Putin's wearing a tie. What was funny was that they wanted to project some kind of dark power, but what they looked like was a bunch of gangsters who weren't doing very well. Al Capone, just before the taxman came a knocking, the Gambinos before John Gotti started spilling the beans. I think that Putin knows he's running out of time, and that is incredibly exciting. Now, it's very hard to explain just how deep the feelings are for Queen Elizabeth here, God rest her soul. I mean, I went to Green Park today and saw some of the flowers and some of the paintings and drawings little kids have made, and it's really, really moving. And I just couldn't help feeling that when Putin dies, there will be nothing like this great public display of affection. Queen Elizabeth, God rest your soul. Vladimir Putin, do fuck off. Love from London.
He's in London. He'll be back in Ukraine at the end of September, but still providing his updates. Sorry about the wind noise. I'm not sure what this is.
John, just friendly reminder.
Ukrainian soldier who arrested me on day 2 for being a Russian spy shows me how to handle a boiled egg without a teaspoon and an egg cup.
Because you're old now, you can keep forgetting this thing, but this is how you can clean the egg without those special egg, how it calls?
I don't know, because we just don't need it in America, because we are able to think for ourselves.
Yeah, we can't see.
And we're going to Izyum.
That's
Don't
it?
just...
Oh, I thought we were going to see something profound. He's just peeling it with his hand. That's what I do. That's how I peel my eggs. I crack it a little bit, and then I sit there and peel it off, but with hand. I don't have an egg cup. I don't know what that is. So I can continue on. That's from John. Let's go to the Ukraine war video report on Reddit. See if there's any other video we can get into this evening, or some type of media. It doesn't look like too much has been coming out media-wise, video-wise. Oh, I got a couple more on YouTube too we can get to. But the last 24 hours, not a whole lot of video. 60mm M83 Chinese-made mortar shells found in Ukraine. Looks like China is supplying Russia after all. Unconfirmed. That's an unconfirmed video. Oh, Reddit's video player's struggling. Look at that. Might have to go to YouTube for a second until this fixes. Uh-oh, Reddit video player having a problem. So let's go over to YouTube first and get the Radio Free Radio Liberty update. The speed of the efficiency of Ukraine's counteroffensive in the northeastern region of Kharkiv came as a stunning surprise to the Russian military. RFE-RL spoke to some of the Ukrainian soldiers involved who described their tactics. How the Russian forces were deceived in Ukraine. Caught many Russian soldiers by surprise.
Нам поступила задача від командира бригади зачищати даний населений пункт з метою, щоб противник відволікти його і зробити хибний такий як маневр на цей напрямок, кинути сили, щоб противник думав, що основний удар буде
Welcome everybody to Mercado Media.
А не на Балаклії.
Все було сплановано, кожен знав, що має робити. Ми вийшли з своєї хати і поступово підходили до їхньої. Відкрився вогонь, вони відкрили з своєї сторони, ми відкрили з своєї сторони вогонь, намагалися взяти їх штурмом. Дійшли аж до тих червоних будинків. Правда, не знали, скільки там було особового складу в них. Довелося на перший раз трохи відійти. Ну, наші хлопці теж молодці, вони їх там добре покошмарили.
Ми висувалися по лісу, смузі, 3 групами. 2, які йшли на зачистку, 3 група, яка йшла на підкріплення. З неї, з тієї групи підкріплення, частина була для евакуації та підносу боєприпасів та надання допомоги, першої медичної допомоги у разі 300-х та витаскування поранених, що бували безповоротні втрати, витаскування на попередній рубіж і далі евакуація здійснювалася коробочками.
Вони не очікували, що буде наступ, що буде штурм. І вони не були до цього готові. У них так само багато теж були втрати, то що потім вже дивилися по дронах, під'їжджали їхні машини, евакуйовували їхніх людей.
Противник не здогадувався про те, що ми їх штурмуємо. Навіть коли ми зайняли перші рубежі, перші хати і далі просувалися, противник не здогадувався, що ми вже зайшли і закріпилися на даному.
That should show you Russia's ability to Russia's surveying ability, their intelligence taking abilities, like they weren't able to see the Ukrainian troops amassing in the east at all. Likely shifted all of their, well, they did. They sent all of their radar, counter radar, all of their ability to see what the enemy is doing into the south. They moved all of their Buke systems into the south, all of the intelligence systems, and likely took it away from the east, and Ukraine was able to completely surprise them.
Противник здогадався аж на наступний день зранку, що вже Збройні сили є. Вони вже відкривали по них вогонь.
Вони перших днів 3 трималися, давали нам відпір, ми їх атакували. І на день 4 ми трошки вже почали вже більш активніше діяти, і противник відійшов.
Дуже швидко втікали. Було чути зриви БК.
Retreating very quickly.
Підривали. Це було сплановано. Ну, дуже багато чого поставляли. Тобто боєприпаси ті, які знаходилися в них на місцях. І була команда їм відступити. У зв'язку з тим, що в них не було ніякого підвозу, не було можливості забрати ні їхніх 300-х, 200-х. Вони це все спланували тільки на ніч і вночі планово відступили під прикриттям, звісно ж, їхньої артилерії.
На мою думку, то, що ми активно і рішуче діяли, і може противник вже був тут деморалізований. Вони також, може, подумали, за що їм тут. Це навіть не їхня земля, а для нас це нам діватися нікуди. Або тут, або ніде.
It's not their land and we aren't going anywhere. Then here, now he's going to show y'all some of the trash. Likely going to be trash everywhere.
Дісталося нам
Here's what the vehicle they left behind.
російсько-окупаційних військ МТЛБ. Далі на ньому зверху поставимо ЗУ-23-2, яка буде в подальшому використовуватися тільки для наступу.
Ukraine claims to have liberated 6,000 square kilometers of territory during the counteroffensive. 6,000 square kilometers. TVs destroyed. They leave everything destroyed in their path as the Russians advance. I'm not sure what Reddit is up to here. I'm not sure what's going on with that. Are we done with this? Yeah. Upload is done. Okay, so it's likely because of the upload. So editor, shout out to editor Larry and the mod team. The map video is uploaded. So here's the Chinese-made mortar shells found in Ukraine. It's unconfirmed right now, but here's the video in case you might have seen it.
И что мы видим? Что мины поставляются Китаем. И самое интересное, что вот даже давайте откроем вам.
Seeing some Chinese munitions.
Деньги. Ну вот, открываем. Вышивные заряды. И смотрим. У нас уже умники перевели Made in Китай.
Не Made in Китай, а китайский текст. Текст китайский. Ось, взрыватель тоже с иероглифом.
Угу.
Made in Китай, а написано там...
Ну, такая вот штука, ребята. Вот такие вот дела.
So Chinese-made mortars in Ukraine for the Russian side. Unconfirmed still, so we need to see some more on that to be like, yeah, for sure, China has munitions that the Russians are using in Ukraine. But that's the first video. Still, we need to see more. Brazenly and on camera, the Russians kidnap orphans from the occupied territories of Ukraine and say that it is for their good. This is a war crime, a genocide. So here's Russia taking kids from Ukraine.
На сегодняшний день 120 детей приехали на территорию Москвы. Они поедут в 13 регионов России. Что касается наших дальнейших планов, почти готовы документы на следующую группу детей. Это будет первая группа из Луганской Народной Республики в количестве 104 человек.
Literally taking children out of Ukraine and sending them across Russia.
Слушайте, ну если мы почитаем, за что отправляют меня в санкционный список, то, во-первых, ну вот вчера Америка, например, добавила, да, я думаю, они как будто чувствовали, что мы сегодня вывозим самую большую группу за последнее время, да. Как бы нам говорят о том, что мы вывезли около 1000 детей. На сегодняшний день в семьях наших российских граждан 300 детей Донецкой Народной Республики.
Wow. So they took 300 children. So America's lying by saying there's 1,000 children taken. We only took 300 kids, and that's just in one day. So they're taking them from the east of Ukraine and then shipping them all throughout different oblasts in Russia. And that's been going. The reports reports indicated that was going to happen, and that it was going to happen, and that it's going to happen. It's been happening, and now there's a video of it happening. Another large shipment of weapons and several rucksacks that were delivered to us by the Second Army of the World.
Маємо при штурмі.
Acts of goodwill.
Ротне укомплектування.
This is Russian equipment in Ukrainian control now.
засоби спостереження, екіпіровка та спорядження зброя.
Wow, look at all the ammo. Small arms. Small arms munitions. C4. Excuse me, C4. AT4s.
Готувати оборону Росії, а не залишати всі боєприпаси. Чим вони будуть далі воювати, ніхто цього не знає.
Grenades, mortars.
Слава Україні, героям слава, ми йдемо вперед.
Russians leaving behind a whole bunch of equipment to use. Ukrainian troops awaiting orders.
Yeah. Скажи пару слов. Ебем. Из Вазелина. Бригада отважных. Фуд.
So just Ukrainian troops doing troop things. Ukrainian soldiers soldiering. That's what this is. Having a smoke break, likely in between their advancements and their counteroffensives. Here's charred remains of a Russian base in Melitopol after a Ukrainian strike. So this is in the south. Now that we got a location, this is in the Russian-controlled city of Melitopol on your map. So there's the circle. I'll show y'all where it is in Melitopol.
Как-то так, блядь, мы и воюем, ёбаный в рот.
Destroyed.
Как-то так, блядь, мы и воюем, ёбаный в рот.
Completely destroyed. Dang. That is done. Russian base in Melitopol. Video montage of the Kharkiv offensive. I'm gonna turn that down. Some of them's hearing some music. So this is in Kharkiv. Ukrainian counteroffensive actions. There's a Bushmaster. There's an Mi-28 helicopter. Ukrainian flag can be seen on the vehicles. Ukraine using pontoon bridges. Yeah, Bushmasters are Australian. Taking some prisoners. It's a Russian troop. More Russian POWs coming out of that tree line that they were just firing into. The proper way to handle a prisoner of war. Not like Russia does and kill them and bury them. Torture them first. M777's being used. That's an M777 artillery. Stugna P. There's a destroyed Cam-AZ vehicle. Vehicle's destroyed under a bridge. There's another Cam-AZ vehicle. A fueler truck, that's destroyed. Destroyed Z's everywhere. Oh, I get it. So the Z's actually stand for sleeping now. Okay. So now, so the Z means that they were sleeping and then they got hit while they were sleeping. To let the Ukrainians know, hey, listen, we're taking a nap right now. But it doesn't seem the Ukrainians care. they're still hitting these vehicles, despite taking a nap break. Great compilation of the counteroffensives in Kharkiv. Oh, let's go see what the cope is looking like in Russia. More genocidal propaganda on Kremlin-controlled state TV. Putin argues that for Russia to win this war, all of Ukraine's critical infrastructure has to be destroyed. He says it doesn't matter how awful it looks since the West already considers Russians a horde of barbarians. So do an atrocious act, commit atrocities, play into it with propaganda, and then play victim after you're taking a complete L. And now that the rhetoric is what it is based upon their own actions, like we call them orcs. The Russian military in Ukraine are disgusting orcs, and the Kremlin, especially their orc leader, Vladimir Putin, who is the most comparative person to Adolf Hitler or other authoritarian dictators in countries throughout history. They did it to themselves. They've welcomed all of this criticism and all of this garbage. What do they call it? Russophobia, garbage. They do shit on their own. They commit acts and then they act like little victim Karens. That's exactly what they do. So they do some shit. They act tough. They act big, and then when they get their ass kicked, then they play victim and act like Karens. That's exactly what the Russians do. Let's continue. So this is what their media is saying. Here's what their media is saying. Let's listen to the cope. Turn it up some.
Стесняться таких действий. Нас все равно записывают варвары. Вот изначально. Русские варвары, там, Орда с Востока и так далее, тому подобное. А сейчас вот те жертвы украинских обстрелов, которые уже, мы видим, найдены в Изюме, будут опять-таки превращены во вторую Бучу на Западе. Но вот долго не было там понимания, как мы будем работать с этими всеми европейскими санкциями. В итоге получилось всего лишь 3 этапа. Первое – газ за рубли. Второе – починить турбину. Третье – газа нет. Все очень просто, очень доходчиво. И вся Европа теперь выясняет, что она будет мыть, где она будет мерзнуть и от каких своих благ, там, будь то кофе или теплая постель, они будут отказываться. И то же самое сейчас нужно делать с Украиной. Еще раз подчеркиваю, это родная для меня страна, я там родился и 40 лет прожил. Но я сейчас говорю, что от того, как быстро мы уничтожим всю систему жизнеобеспечения страны, зависит наша победа, которую мы...
So basically saying that Russia, and they do, control a lot of important infrastructure in Europe with gas. I mean, gas prices in Europe are gas, electricity prices, heat bills, heating, especially that winter's coming. Oh, shit. The countries that are so heavily dependent on Russia for their energy are right now not doing well. And Russia's leveraging that by, they're going to continue. They're going to make it worse for these European countries to try to get them on the side of, we need to stop sending aid to Ukraine. This is getting ridiculous. This is what Russia wants. We need to stop sending aid to Ukraine because these energy bills are so high. We've already seen protests. There's already been protests in countries about the rising energy costs, and Russia's doing it intentionally so that way more countries in Europe get off supporting Ukraine and start trying to figure out how they can get these energy costs down. And right now it's basically the only way they're going to do it is to side with Russia's ideology, take away some of the sanctions that's been imposed on Russia for their actions, and then now they're saying that since they have such a control over Europe, they need to do the same in Ukraine and start hitting critical infrastructure that's going to be affecting civilians more so. They already have been, but they want to increase the attacks.
Приближаем как можем, потому что сейчас и электростанции, и плотины, и железная дорога, и шоссейные дороги – все это законные военные цели, потому что киевский режим использует это для того, чтобы максимально постараться нанести нам именно военное поражение. И поэтому, да, это будет очень больно, да, нас будут обвинять во всех смертных грехах, но это путь к нашей победе.
But this is our path to victory, so...
Но это будет именно военное, постараться нанести нам именно...
So basically just calling to take out civilians, kill civilians on their TV right there, an attempt to defeat us militarily, like owning the fact that they'll be accused. So it was weird in a sense, right? The Russian media, and because again, this is a wing of their what's going on. This is why we tune in and see what the hell they're saying in their media, not to like be like, oh damn, we got to believe every single word that because you don't do that. It's to see what their ideology is at, to gauge where their rhetoric is, to gauge where their cope is, to gauge where they're at, because this is part of their war, the information war in Ukraine, or in Russia, and their state media. So basically saying that we'll accept that. We'll accept that we'll be accused of all these deadly sins, but yet they're totally carrying out for the quote unquote Russophobia that they're receiving for their own actions. So in the same sentence that they'll own up to everything and so be it. We'll be accused of these deadly acts. You know, it's part of the war. But then in the same hand, anything that Ukraine does to win or to try to get Russia out of their country, it's an act of terrorism, or it just double speak bullshit from the Russians and the state media there. All double speak garbage bullshit, all of it. Ukrainians showing how to make bear opener from an Mi-28 wreckage. A bear opener. I'm not sure what that means. But here's an Mi-28 helicopter.
Отлично, с электроникой проблем не возникает. Даже в сложных метеоусловиях ночью, в жаркую погоду. Противник в основном применяет ПЗРК в больших количествах. Приходится маневрировать. Меняем маршрут, направление, заходы на цель.
I love Ukraine. They made beer bottle openers out of it, out of the scrap from the wreckage. Oh man. So what the Ukraine? So this is what the soldiers that Putin is. Okay, so here's what the Ukraine soldiers are actually like.
Я батько. Я молодший брат.
Я водій маршрутки. Я скоро одружуся. Я фанат-шахтер. Начальник отдела продаж.
Я прораб.
Я программист. Я свидетель на свадьбе.
Дядя Юра, таксист.
Я вчитель фізкультури.
Я студент-геолог.
У мене своя фірма.
Я кращий друг зі школи.
Я сусід, який завжди стукає по батареї.
Я єдиний син.
So that was a well put together video, but at the same time we've heard just regular interviews with reporters of the soldiers, not in like a well put together video like that, just like reporters on the ground and the soldiers saying what they used to do before the war started. And they were regular, a lot of them were just regular civilians working a job. Similarly to like in the US, like we have the reserves or the National Guard that we have in the United States, where they're citizen soldiers, where they'll drill 1 weekend a month and 2 weeks out of the year they got to go to training, but the rest of the time they work a normal job, and then they go and train 1 weekend a month. So, but these soldiers in Ukraine, though, it's not a 1 weekend a month. They've been fighting for 6 months straight now, right? But before the war began, they had a regular old job. Armed Forces of Ukraine at work. Oh wow. Imagine having to cross that like that.
Що я можу сказати? Річка, краєвиди охуєнні і дивимося такі. Оце ці підари, які хуярили з пулеметів по нашому брату.
I'm gonna skip that part. That was a dead Russian in the trench. But so that's the armed forces of Ukraine at work. The customs complex in Novotihivka in Belgorod, Russia, is targeted by Ukrainian force. So it's not even up for debate. Then there's nothing to talk about. There's nothing to question. It is Ukraine striking Russian targets in Belgorod, which is in Russia. It's not in Ukraine. So targets in Russia are being openly admittedly hitted by Ukrainian forces, or hit by Ukrainian forces. Hitted's not a word.
Щось не так, снаряд зарвався не долетівши, ми чули.
О, машина, дивись, машина поперла. Ой-ой-ой-ой, збільше.
Єсть.
Ай, пиздато.
А що за красний? Прийшов, все правильно.
Що за красний дим?
Що за красний дим?
Ай, пиздато, блін.
Ближче, 50, ближче, 50. Та по фідерам прийшло, все в порядку.
Damn, that's a big base. You can see the barracks on fire. That's a big base there. Big strikes. Doesn't look like every building was hit, just one.
Щось не так, снаряд зарвався не долетівши, ми чули.
That base extends pretty wide, but they hit one of them.
Машина, дивись, машина поперла. Ой-ой-ой-ой, збільше.
Єсть.
Two of the buildings, as I was, there's two strikes there. Two buildings.
А що за красний? Прийшов, все правильно.
Що за красний дим?
Що за красний дим?
Ай, пиздато, блін.
Ближче, 50, ближче.
So again, and that makes it a lot easier. It's a lot easier for Ukraine now that they're hitting Russian cities in Russia. Now Belgorod, because this front line has changed over here in the east. So now Ukraine, again, Russian forces were along this border. This blue here in Kharkiv Oblast was all red. So all of this was Russian territory. So now Ukraine can get their HIMARS or whatever right on the border, right? They can get their weapon systems right on the border here. Similarly to like Russia had in Belarus when the invasion began, and Russia was shelling cities from Belgorod or from Belarus, as I was. They've been shelling Kharkiv from Belgorod since the invasion. So it's not like it's like, oh no, Ukraine's striking back. Russia's been using Belgorod as a hub to launch airstrikes on Kharkiv since the start of the invasion. So it's Ukraine's getting some payback now in Russian territory on the map. Interesting. Oops. Not even up for debate. Ukraine is striking Belgorod. Alleged Russian torture chambers found in recently liberated city of Kupiansk. It doesn't say not safe for work tag on there. So, but this is an idea of what the torture chambers look like in Kupiansk that's being revealed. Right, but it wasn't, so they just haven't admitted to it, is what I guess should say. Strikes have been happening in Belgorod, but it's been like, is it a false flag? Is Russia hitting their own city? Which I'm sure it could be a combination of both. Honestly, I'm sure it's a combination of Russia striking Belgorod itself, and now, Ukraine's front lines changed completely, and they can hit it from Kharkiv. But there's no denying of it now, or no question. Looks like a dungeon down here. Again, this is where Russia, wow. Russia committing what Russia's war crimes look like. You got cells down there in a basement. So you had holding cells, multiple holding cells, like that's a one-person cell right there. You're gonna oh my goodness, just atrocities being committed. This is a 10-minute long video. We're gonna skip that. Ukrainians on the move in German Panzer, the Panzer 2000 tanks. Location unknown. Panzer 2000 tanks advancing. Skirt. Panzer 2000. More. There's some POW videos. I skip over just videos of just POWs. If it's a part of the video, that'll be included. But a lot of these videos on the Reddit page have POW videos. There's not safe for work content, which I'm not going to play on the stream. But there's just a plethora of that on the war video report. This is the news of the night, though. Honestly, besides the Ukrainian counteroffensive advancements from Sloviansk. We're gonna hit this one more time. This was the firefights. If you just started tuning in now, when the night began. So this is going to be from the 17th. It's now the 18th in Ukraine. So this would have been the night of the 17th, technically tonight for us. But again, it's the 18th now in Ukraine. So this is from the 17th to the 18th overnight. Firefights happening in Kherson City.
Контртеррористическая операция в самом разгаре, прямо в самом центре Херсона.
Okay, so firefights taking place within Kherson City. Let's go to Ukrainian forces on the move, featuring an Australian Bushmaster. All right, so you got the Ukrainians advancing with an Australian Bushmaster. We watched this, the war crime piece from the BBC. We watched that a little earlier in the stream, so rewatch if you in case you missed it. I made a video on the liberation of the Kharkiv region. I hope it could be of interest to some of you. It's a compilation. A lot of the videos we've seen. A lot of these are going to be compilations. We've seen a lot of them. Dobrova village on approach to Lyman. So this is the advance from Sloviansk. This is the Ukrainian counteroffensives we've been talking about. The newest region of counteroffensives. Let me pull it up on the map that we're seeing here in Ukraine, launching from the town of Sloviansk. Ukrainian-controlled city of Sloviansk. You got Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing towards the Russian-controlled city of Lyman. All right, this is the most recent location of Ukrainians liberating territory, moving, advancing towards, again, the currently Russian-controlled city of Lyman. They're right on the outskirts of it. That city's likely going to be liberated within a week or two. I don't know about within the week, but it's getting damn close. Definitely within a week or two. Where Ukrainians are advancing on that city. Here's a video.
Над населеним пунктом Донецької області Діброва переходить під контроль української армії. Національна гвардія України.
You got the Ukrainian flag up there on the pole. Can you see it? Yeah.
Звільняє наші території крок за кроком. Село за селом. Перемога буде за нами. Слава Україні!
Hey. So that's the Ukrainian counteroffensives that are advancing from Sloviansk up towards Lyman to try to connect these two fronts. They're trying to get these two connected so they can the northern tip of the Donetsk Oblast here. So let me clear this. They want to connect the Kharkiv Oblast, so the Ukrainians want to clear this out. Right, get all this taken back. Get this space taken. This is the northern tip of the Donetsk Oblast, and then connect it to the rest of the Kharkiv Oblast just north of it, and complete at least this territory, which will help them advance towards Lysychansk and Severodonetsk to the east. So it's what happened in the beginning of the summer, where the Russians were just advancing here in the east, which basically was just a big move on Lysychansk and Severodonetsk, and the Russians committed all of their units and resources to taking these two cities. Let me highlight them. Taking Severodonetsk and Lysychansk, they put their entire force capabilities behind taking these two cities, and since then, it's been nothing but Ukraine taking territory back now, significantly in the east, and they are advancing. Here's the Ukrainian counteroffensives advancing from the city of Seversk, which is threatening the Russian positions near Lysychansk, near Bilohorivka and Srebyanka, advancing up into the Chechen-controlled territory. This is where Ramzan Kadyrov's TikTok army is, if they haven't been relocated by now. They might have been relocated because the Russians are using them and the Wagner group the most, but this is where Ramzan Kadyrov's unit was, up in this region. So let's continue on. Ukrainian drone ordnance straight into the Russians' truck's engine block. Right into the Cam AZ truck's engine block. No sound here on this one. Oof. Destroyed. Got it. Automatic weapons are heard in some neighborhoods in Kherson. Okay, so we have video. Here's audio. I'm interested to see what the reports. I want to see what happened in Kherson. We need the daytime reports to come out. I'm gonna go to Twitter after this and see if there's anything new. But this is audio. So someone taking an audio recording. Let's go back to Twitter real quick. Let's see if there's anything new in Kherson. Latest. Let's see what we got here. Anything new on that ground fighting taking place? Okay. Key forces report that there were 8-to-1 troop ratios. What is this? No. Okay, that's about something else. Trophy, no, that's not in relation. Here's the video again of the firefights taking place, but I'm not seeing anything new yet. Let's see if we can find something. There is no panic in Kherson. Kadyrov's TikTok clowns are fighting. Oh. This is the first report of the Wagner fighting the Kadyrov unit. Either someone didn't want to shoot a reportedly photobomb badass Chechen live stream from the front lines. Numerous French-speaking... That's what I was wondering why I was speaking French. The Frenchies with trying to get in on it. So that's the first I've seen of like Russia on Russia and explaining what the hell is happening here. TikTok clowns fighting Wagner group. I'm not seeing anything else on it. Nothing else really. I don't want to get you. Let me do this so I don't get you dizzy with me scrolling quick. I'm going to scroll fast so I don't want to get you all dizzy. Nothing else new. Let's go to top. So Kadyrov unit versus Wagner group. Doesn't look like Wagner group's not getting along with any of the Russian troops, it looks like. Likely because the Wagner group have been used so much for the any sort of Russian success in Ukraine. So they're feeling a type of way. I'm not seeing anything new, chat. Just those two videos. I'm scrolling fast. Oh, I got some more here. Oh, I do got another video. Here, I found this one. Not that one. Footage from Central Kherson. Here's another one. This one's a little loud. Dang. Well, good. Let them kill each other, and then Ukraine can just move in and not have to do much work. Wouldn't it be poetic if the Russian, all of the melting pot of Russian forces or like proxies in Ukraine, like all of them just have like an internal civil war with each other? Like now it's Wagner versus the Chechens, and then the LNR fight the DPR, and it's just like holy, and then the Ukrainians just gotta sit and wait for it to finish so then they can move in and get their land back. It's not going well for Russia. This is Russia versus Russia in Ukraine now. They're fighting themselves. So that's the video. I'm gonna wait for a confirmed full-scale report, or a full report on what that was. But the early indications suggest that it's a Chechen versus Wagner group battle in Kherson streets. This is the "We Are One Russia" sign. Oh, they didn't throw Molotovs at this one. Oh yeah, take that shit off. One of the signs, one of the soldiers just lit up a Molotov and threw it at the sign. Oh yeah, tear that shit off. Man, the Russians to have done all that to put up billboards in their cities that they're occupying. They really thought. Yeah, tear that piece of shit propaganda down.
Красавчик!
It's wild. Russia uses literal propaganda tactics like billboards, trucks. They have propaganda trucks. I mean, their media is self-explanatory, but they use literal propaganda tactics when they're taking land. We are one Russia. Yeah, how'd that go? How'd that work? Okay, that's in no, that is some parkour Russophobia. I'm dead. Playing into the Russophobia garbage that Russia victimhood, whatever. Ukrainian forces and American automatic grenade launchers, including a Mark 19, installed in the back of pickups. This frame also features a Belgian FN F2000 rifle and an American M240 machine gun in the Donbass. Oh, hell yeah, that's a Mark 19. Hell yeah. Dang. So those are automatic grenade launchers, right? We used to have those mounted on our vehicles until they told us to stop. Because again, they're automatic grenade launchers, so there's a large area of devastation usually after they're used. Dang, so that was a 240 Bravo, which is my favorite automatic weapon to have been trained on. I always chose, every time I volunteered to carry the 240. That was just my thing, I guess. Even as a sergeant in an E5 when I was in the military, I still carried the 240. I just wanted to. There's pictures of the graves numbered. If you watch the intro to the stream during my live streams, the mass grave from Bucha is seen in the intro during the compilation. So I mean, it's very similar scenes in Izyum as the mass graves are being unearthed. We watched this on Reddit. That's Russia State TV admitting that for Russia to win, they need to take out all of the critical infrastructure in Ukraine. And then here's from Ukraine's Ministry of Defense. How could you not want to protect a morning like this in Ukraine? This is the newest, 23 minutes ago.
What a wonderful world.
Do they? Who? No, that's I'm tripping. I have that song. I have What a Wonderful World at the end of my streams for a song. Interesting. Well, we'll end with this then. How about that? We'll end with this video since it's a good video. That's it for the videos for tonight and the coverage. I'll be live again tomorrow night. I'm going to end with this video, but I'm also going to be live after the stream is over on Snack Squad TV's YouTube channel. Join me. I'm going to be streaming The Last of Us Part 2, Chapter 3, and honestly, after that's done, I'm going to probably be up still, and I'm going to stream some Modern Warfare 2. I have Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, the beta. If you're interested in video game style live streams, I stream video games too, not just news content. But all that's over on a different YouTube channel. I want to keep all news content here on Mercado Media and have a separate YouTube channel for video games and that type of content. So that way, those that don't care about video games and don't want to see this shit, you don't have to, okay? But please join me over on Snack Squad TV. I'm going to be live there for the rest of the night. It's already 10:30, but I'm going to be live over on this YouTube channel. You can talk, ask me questions. It won't be members only chat, so if you've been sitting in the back trying to chat, you haven't been able to on Mercado Media, it will be open for everyone. So head on over there and I'll read your comments. Anything y'all want to see or talk about, we can do that during the video game stream. So come on over to Snack Squad TV when this is over. This is it from the defense of Ukraine. How could you not want to protect something like this? And then I will be wrapping up for the night. You guys that's it. Have a good night. Take care. Again, I'm Andy Mercado from Mercado Media. If you could leave a like on the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook, all that good stuff. Just notification bells turn on. Make sure you do all the things. Join our Telegram channel, join our Discord server. You can find links to all of Mercado Media platforms in the descriptions on both Facebook and YouTube. All the links are right there. Just go one by one and click them, follow, click follow. It might take you a minute, but that's how you can support and continue me doing this work that we're doing here at Mercado Media. Have a wonderful night, y'all. See you guys tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern for more Ukraine war coverage. I'm Andy Mercado from Mercado Media. Have a wonderful night. Take care.